This is part 3 of the chapter on GDP. So we will start with real versus nominal GDP. So nominal GDP values the production of goods and services at current prices. So this is really important for you to understand what is real GDP and what is nominal GDP. The definition of GDP was it is the market value of all final goods and services produced within a country. So, for example, if we are producing jeans and the market price for jeans is $10 today, so $10 would be included in GDP. That is nominal GDP. But what is real GDP? That's real GDP values the production of goods and services at constant prices. So what does this mean? This simply means that every year in every country there is inflation or price increase in price level. So for example, if jeans produced today if the jeans was produced today for $10, last year it might have been produced for $9, but because the price level increased, so the jeans became more expensive. So for example, in 2010, if the jeans costed $5, and if now in 2020 the same jeans costs $10, then there is an increase in price level. Nothing has changed. It's the same jeans that was sold for $5. The market price was $5 in 2010, but in 2020 the market price is $10. So in 2010, $5 was included in GDP of that country, but in 2020, $10 is included in GDP of that country. So although in 2020 the GDP has increased more due to that jeans, but in reality, the production has not increased. So why has the GDP increased? I mean, in 2010, the GDP increased by $5 when you produced one jeans. In 2020, the GDP increased by $10 when you produced the same jeans. Why did the GDP increase by $10? The simple reason is increase in the price level. We call that inflation in economics. So there was increase in price level due to which $10 was included in GDP. So that's the nominal GDP. But when we are talking about real GDP, we take into account the inflation. So we deduct or remove the impact of increase in price level or inflation from GDP to get the real GDP. So I will just discuss an example. I hope it will be more clear after that. If in 2015 is the base year, ice cream price is $2 and the candy bar price is $1. So in 2015, we take this as a base year or a reference year. This is the year by which we will compare other years. So the real GDP for 2015 would be if the country produced 100,000 ice creams and 200,000 candy bars, so we will multiply by the price levels, and here we get the GDP of that of only these two goods for 2015. Now let's move on to 2016. Here the production increased to 120,000 for ice creams, and the production increased to 220,000 of candy bars. But we took the same price level that was in the year 2015. We did not increase the price level. Even if the price level for ice cream was more than $2 in 2016, we did not do that because we are trying to find the real GDP. Real GDP always represents the real increase in GDP and not the increase in GDP due to the price level. So if the price level for ice cream in 2016, for ice cream if it was $3 and for candy bar if it was $2, we did not multiply it by $3 and we did not multiply the candy bars by $2. If we did that, we would have gotten the nominal GDP and not the real GDP. So that's the real GDP increased from 400,000 to 460,000. So there was a real increase of $60,000 to the GDP. In 2017, the production increased to 150,000 for ice creams, and for candy bars the production increased to 230,000. So that is 530,000, a further increase of $70,000 to the GDP. So these are the real increase in GDP and not the nominal increase in GDP. So real GDP always takes into account the increase in production and not an increase in the price level. See here, we have taken the same amount of price level for both ice creams and candy bars. We have not changed the price levels. We have just multiplied the increase in production, the production with the same price level that was in the previous year. We do not change the price level to find the real GDP. So that is real GDP, and that is more relevant, and that is very important. Nominal GDP is not a very important concept. It's not very informative, but real GDP is informative, because real GDP shows how much a country increased its production, because it removes the impact of price level. So directly linked with this concept of real GDP and nominal GDP is the concept of GDP growth rate. So every year countries increase their production of goods and services. So whenever a country improves their GDP or increases their growth of things, or growth of different goods and services, the GDP grows. So for example, if in 1 year the GDP of China was $1 trillion, and next year the GDP of China is $2 trillion, so there was an increase of 100% in China. So that would be GDP growth rate of 100%. So we will just discuss an example we have here, which will make the concept much more clearer. The following table shows the GDP of United States in trillions of US dollars. The nominal GDP in 2015 is $18.12 trillion, for in 2016 18.62, and 2017 19.39. And the real GDP in terms of 2012 or 2012 prices, the real GDP is 17.37, 17.66, and 18.05. So how do we calculate the GDP growth rate? This is the formula. So we use, to find GDP growth rate, we use real GDP and not nominal GDP, because we are trying to find growth rate. So if we use nominal GDP, that would not be helpful, because nominal GDP includes inflation or price increase. That is not helpful. So if things become expensive, it will just lead to an increase in GDP, and that is not helpful at all. We want to find the increase in real GDP, real production. So this is the formula that we have here. So 17.66 is the GDP in 2016 minus 17.37 was the GDP in 2015 divided by 17.37 that was the GDP in 2015. So here we are finding the GDP growth rate of 2016, and it is 1.67% after we use this formula. However, if we had found the nominal GDP, it would have been is equal to nominal GDP of 2016, that is 18.62 minus 18.12 divided by 18.12. So that would have been the nominal increase in GDP, but we are not concerned about this one. Because whenever we are trying to find the GDP growth rate, we are talking about the real GDP and not the nominal GDP. So it's also written here. Please note that the growth rate of 1.67%, which is here, worked out above, is lower than the percentage change in nominal GDP in 2016 of 2.76%. So if we had found the value of this, we would have found it to be 2.76%. The difference of 1.09% is attributable to change in price level. So 1.09% difference between nominal GDP increase and real GDP increase is only due to the price level, only because the price has increased. So these are the concepts of part 2 that I wanted you to understand. These are a little difficult, but if you go through this part once again, then it will be much more clear. And in next part, we will discuss some critical issues related to gross domestic product. All right, goodbye then.